I do find myself asking one particular question regarding One Bookshelf's recent additions to their publisher conduct terms of service, specifically regarding the concept of hostile marketing. And I'm just curious if, if they're going to be serious about this, are they going to be removing the publisher accounts for Wizards of the Coast, Renegade Game Studios, Onyx Path, Modifius, or any of these other companies that are, as publishers, making controversial public statements on hot button political issues that might upset certain segments of the fan base, saying defamatory things about fans and other publishers who can also be found on Drivethrurpg, under the One Bookshelf umbrella. Um, like, what exactly is the hostile marketing? How many rule books from mainstream companies have had whole sections in them about, pre-assuming that the players are going to be up to terrible things, and that having to make these statements about how certain people aren't allowed anymore to play role-playing games, and if you sniff them out in your group, you better chase them out. All that kind of stuff. That all kind of feels that if you want to like massage the exact specific vague terms that are there in the hostile marketing section. I mean, like, well, I don't see why Wizards of the Coast threatening to walk out on Hasbro and their general stance when it comes to matters on Twitter and social media. Like, why doesn't that affect them, I wonder? Is it because that they're big mainstream companies whose presence of having their products on your website is a critical factor of getting people to come there and make purchases, and probably forms the bulk of your sales? That can't be it. There's no way. It's just really because of just fear over losing a contract with a big distributor. Certainly this is not a rules for thee and not rules for people who have the money and clout to get away and do whatever the hell they want on social media and actively antagonize their fan base and put antagonistic things in their role books and all that kind of stuff. It's the little guys down here at the bottom, fighting amongst each other over like half a dozen book sales a month. They're the trouble. They're the ones. Dudes with got a couple hundred followers on Twitter. They're the people who you got to worry about defaming the company, the precious company. Look, I mean, I totally understand the business aspect here. You guys are just trying to be a humble little print-on-demand company, skim a little money off the top of helping people sell some books. I mean, I've certainly have enjoyed access to Drivethrurpg over the years. I've managed to put up a pretty impressive little collection of AD&D books that otherwise would have been a royal pain in the ass to track down and use bookstores and on eBay and stuff like that. Drivethrurpg, as a consumer, is a great resource, and it's someone who's put books up on there for sale. It's about as easy as one could have expected and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite touching when I actually got approved to have an actual publisher account, so I don't have to sit and wait for a week for them to get around to reviewing any materials I want to upload and all that kind of stuff. And I've taken it all very seriously in terms of, while some of my books and concepts for role-playing games are kind of intentionally trying to be poking the bear at certain hot button topics nowadays. I've also been considerate about the fact that I'm not trying to blatantly cross the line on stuff. And in fact, if you actually were to read the things I've been writing, you might find that the initial premise is somewhat subverted within its own text, kind of a thing. Escape from Planet Matriarchy isn't quite what you think it is going in, and all that kind of stuff. Or at least that's my intention as the writer. Thankfully, there are other places out there. Amazon will gladly sell my books too. And, just because of personal things that have gone in my own life in terms of, financial windfalls, I don't feel like I have to be so super dependent upon the approval of Drivethrurpg in one bookshelf. And so if they decide to take umbrage with me saying any of this stuff, like, I mean, that's on them. Do whatever the hell you got to do to cover your ass, after all. But, you know, it might be too late. This might be out of your hands. It doesn't matter if Venger Satanis and all the stuff he was doing was cynical. I still consider him to be the point of blame for this current new round of you know, policy lockdown kind of stuff going on there at the website, and how it might threaten various publishers who do like to play, you know, on the edge of what is approved and all that kind of stuff. But fair is fair. Why do these big companies get to get away with being antagonistic and hostile in their marketing? You know, how come D&D, all the old D&D books on Drivethrurpg have all these big giant disclaimers about defamatory, accusatory disclaimers on all these things, talking about how, like, the writers back then who wrote all these original OD&D and first edition and second edition stuff, how they are all just steeped in racism and sexism. That's a pretty defamatory thing to be hurling at people, especially when you're still wanting to sit there and sell the book anyway. If you felt, if Wizards of the Coast was felt that strongly about these materials being bad for you, then why are they parking them somewhere so they can, you know, make money on them? There's a lot of that out. You know, I kind of had that thought while looking through the new Hunter the Reckoning book and its disclaimers about it doesn't want the very kinds of people who are going to be the most attracted to playing a game about vigilante supernatural fighters. You know, like, we don't want those kinds of people playing this game. And well, then why are you writing that game? Like, why like all these companies, Disney, role-playing games, like, there's a lot of companies that have purchased these IPs that they want to make money on, but they actively don't like the fan base that comes along with it, and they kind of seem like they don't like the product because they want to change it so damn badly. So why on earth did they want to own that IP? Like, their reasoning for wanting to do it is suspect, and it's no wonder that their presentation of these things ends up being lackluster and unsatisfactory to the audience. But thank God they have it built in to just be able to say that we're just a bunch of sexist racists, and it's not their fault for writing anything bad that people didn't like. It's our fault. It's if only the consumers had the wisdom to see how horrible they were and would just shut up and buy our terrible products that we don't like and are based on terrible old racist property. Like, all this shit's just, why are they allowed to get away with that? But, you know, some fucking moron wants to make a tongue-in-cheek pro-life adventure module for D&D that no one's gonna read and play seriously. A few people who buy it just kind of for the lark of it, but it's not like it's gonna be some big thing, and it's not gonna change anybody's minds. So, like, what really is the big deal? Whether or not it was questionable that, you know, he would, like, purposely try to get himself canceled just to, you know, try to get some attention online and all that kind of stuff. A completely separate conversation, basically, in terms of the other thing here. You know, just like I said, it's rules for thee but not for me kind of stuff. Wizards, Renegade, Onyx, Artal Saurian, all the bigger game companies that got the big print deals and the advertising budgets and the booths at cons and all that kind of stuff. They all seem to be able to get away with their grandiose political stances online, you know, that are divisive, and that they're allowed to talk shit about their fan base and talk shit about other writers and other publishers and other games. They're able to talk shit about their own games and their own fan bases. But for, like, the little guys who are out here independently trying to, like, you know, just get our own little tiny slice of the action, we get held to this higher standard of conduct. And I don't like that. If we got to be held up to these standards, they should be held up to those standards too. So maybe I'll take all this hostile marketing shit more seriously if you'll actually did, like, say, hey, Wizards, if you're gonna walk out on Hasbro over Roe v. Wade, then maybe we're just going to have to pull your publisher page down off Drivethrurpg, because apparently you're being too divisive and political and might offend some people out there with your politics and your online jargon or some shit. In reality, this is all really, remember the 90s when they put all those warning labels on albums about, like warning, explicit lyrics. In some ways, like these warnings about danger, we don't want fascists playing our vampire game, or these old D&D games, they're just full of racist and sexist stereotypes. Are those actually really just a subtle way of telling people, like, hey guys, this is the cool, dirty shit, in the way that, like, the explicit warning label could be thrown on an album back in the 90s and it would see a boost to its album sale, because to the album buying audience it made it, it's this new Guns N' Roses album must be so edgy because he says fuck in 3 different tracks. Oh my god. Is that what all these warnings about racism and D&D books, is that really what this actually really pans down to? And that's why it's allowed, and that's why it's not considered hostile, because it's actually really reverse psychology marketing. Ooh, you don't want to be playing these dangerous products here, kid. Come back here in this alley and let me give you a free sample. I mean, I guess that's all I would say about that. Apply your rules fairly, or don't have any of your fucking rules. I don't care. Do what you will. Stay waspinated.